Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is November 27th, 2024, and this is the Boxing Source Midweek Report. That's right, I'm checking in here. JR Bell, what's happening with y'all? Big ups for everyone that's listening live here through YouTube and through Rumble. You got a number of things here that we're going to be trying to talk about. I did say 7:30 here, but pretty much gone on here a few minutes afterwards because I just placed a phone call in reference to something. So all right. So with that being said, right? Okay. We have, I guess, a couple of rumors here that we're going to be talking about in this particular midweek report, man. And I was going to see if I could, get a few folks to join in here to talk about it with me. You feel me? Because this is, been topics that have been going on over the past couple of weeks, or at least a week and a half, in reference to some, right? So we wanted to try to get into it here in this one. And it stems from what could possibly happen in a few months. Okay. We got December, we got January, we got February. And February 22nd has been a date that has been talked about here for almost like a month. Right. And the thing about it is that, hey, we have a number of fights here that have been brought up or pulled up and things like that. So we're trying to see here if that could, go ahead and come to fruition. But we want to see how this thing shapes up. But we want to go first with, to talk about a potential fight for the WBC lightweight championship. Shakur Stevenson, Floyd Schofield Jr. Now, this has recently been brought up because there's been a number of back and forth conversations between Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield. Now, that being said, you had the whole thing in reference to Shakur Stevenson, him signing with Matchroom, him trying to get in a fight with Matchroom, had his first Matchroom fight that was supposed to happen, last month. But due to injury that pretty much forced him to have surgery on his hand, he was scratched out from that particular bout. Okay. And that bout was supposed to be against Joe Cordina, right? Who lost to Anthony Katasi there at 130 pounds. So that fight didn't pretty much happen. Then there were some things as far as like him potentially going up against William Zepeda. And after, the whole thing with the Joe Cordina bout got scrapped, everybody was saying, okay, this is a fight. You got William Zepeda. He's number one in all the sanctioning bodies, WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO. He's like the number one guy that's not a world champion at the lightweight division, supposedly. So looked like, all signs were pointing towards that fight happening once Shakur Stevenson got back from, surgery. Well, we all know about what happened there with William Zepeda against Tevin Farmer and that Golden Boy card in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Almost lost and had a hand injury of his own that has him sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks. So they puts him, as far as like a timetable, back in, able to be back in the ring by the end of March. Now, folks are saying like, hey, we're trying to get Shakur Stevenson back in the ring in February. And they're trying to see if they can have him there for February 22nd, which is the proposed date for the next Riyadh season event that could involve multiple promotional companies, right? So with William Zepeda out, who would Shakur Stevenson face? Well, in enters the number 2 rated fighter in the WBA, Floyd Schofield Jr. And now, there's been some talk, this reference to Floyd Schofield being a potential opponent. Floyd Schofield Sr. has mentioned Shakur Stevenson's name multiple times over the past few months. It's not just, came up. This has come up multiple times as far as like saying that his son would keep up with Shakur Stevenson and could beat Shakur Stevenson. So what happens now that this thing had been, kind of like rose up? Now it's like, okay, we may end up having a fight. Okay. So here's the thing about it. It's like it says a report about Eddie Hearn saying, hey, listen, we made a massive offer for Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield to fight on February 22nd in Saudi Arabia. Right? So now it's like, okay, we'll see what happens there. Now, I wanted to go into one of these supposed tweets here from Kid Austin. Let me see if I can go ahead and share this joint here right quick. Hold on. What does it say here? What does it say? All right. We're going to go ahead and put this thing on presentation mode, of course. Oh, it says, we let Oscar De La Hoya and everyone know Shakur Stevenson, that we want that fight next in February. The ball is now in your court, or were you just typing? Oh man. So there's been a lot of back and forth there between those two combatants. Shakur Stevenson has pretty much said, hey, you're talking a lot, but you got to be able to see if you can back it up, And with this thing here, I'm like, yo, I feel like this is something that, that you could go ahead and have it happen. So let's see. So this is the thing about it. Let me see here. Oh, I'm looking at Shakur Stevenson's joint right now, and that's the thing about it. But I say, hey, they're trying to get this thing done. Let's see here, man. I'm trying to pull up something here in reference to Shakur Stevenson as far as like what he said, man. Hold on, man. So Shakur Stevenson, I'm gonna bring this thing up, man. He got, what did he got on here? He says, I'm gonna share this one. This is from yesterday. Right? So the Twitter account for Floyd Schofield goes to Shakur Stevenson, says, let's go, champ. And Shakur Stevenson, who pretty much knows what's going down, he says, you can't fight for him either, old man. I'm going to show you why you don't send children on a grown man's mission. So, as you can see, there's been a little bit of a thing there that says, hey, we know who's behind the account. Just being real, we know who's behind that account there for Schofield on Twitter. All right. But this thing here, is pretty much like saying like, hey, they're getting a little bit close. They're getting a little bit close here when it comes to this. And the thing about it is that now you have something there where this account says, hey, we let Oscar De La Hoya and everyone know, once again, that we want that fight next in February. And that the ball is now in your court, or were you just typing? Now, I wanted to go into something that was recently posted on that account. And let's see if I could do that. All right, here we go. All right, let's see here, man. I want to go ahead and and share this joint. So it says, everything on our end is done. We asked Golden Boy full steam ahead. We agreed on the terms in purse. Let's fight. Shout out to Just Do Boxing, just getting in here. Big ups to him. We had a great conversation on his channel here earlier today, pretty much talking about this topic and multiple topics here in the sport of boxing. Like I said, I got this thing here with Floyd, Schofield and whatnot. And what's been going back and forth between the two. This particular post was brought up here, almost 2 hours ago. It was almost 2 hours ago when this post was made. And I'm here to say that I have followed up with this particular post. And yeah, they are working on it. They are working on it. And hopefully we see what happens, because if this comes to fruition, we may get something here on the Boxing Source. I'm gonna just say that we may get something here on the Boxing Source. So we gotta see if this actually comes to fruition, at the very least for February 22nd, because I know that there's like a huge card that's being proposed out there for that particular date. And we had these couple of fights here. I said this thing here on one end. You see there on the background there with Shakur, Stevenson, and Floyd, Schofield Jr. And then there's another one, right over here, if y'all can see it, with Boots and Ennis and Vergil Ortiz, right? And the thing on that is that I'm trying to see if that is going to be part of this whole card. So it looked like we had like a post that was made, or at least shared by Kevin Cunningham, of course, well-known trainer, and he posted this thing here as far as like a plan card for February 22nd. So let's get into it. Says Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, heavyweight. Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, rematch. Boots Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz, WBC middleweight title. Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield, and Zhilei Zhang versus Agit Kabayel. Okay. That looks great. All right. So that's 6 fights. 6 really, really, really good fights here for that one. Now, I talked about this whole thing here with Stevenson and Schofield, and I'll talk about this other thing here with Boots, Ennis, and Vergil Ortiz. Jed, what's happening with you, man? It's been a good little minute, since able to hear from you, on brother Joseph's channel. I gotta be seeing if I could catch up with Joseph. I know that he's had some technical issues of sorts, but hopefully, like, everything is all good with him. But he should be like back on the scene there on all that. But glad to see you on here for the Boxing Source Midweek Report. Like I was mentioning here, you got this, I guess, this planned February 22nd card in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia there. Dubois versus Parker, therefore Dubois' IBF title. Beterbiev versus Bivol 2 in the rematch. Boots Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz Jr. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz for Adames' WBC middleweight title. Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield, and Zhilei Zhang versus Agit Kabayel in the heavyweight division. Shout out to Adam Hurley there. He says, hey, they're all great fights. I'm interested in the Zhang versus Kabayel fight. Okay, real quick. I haven't seen anything official yet in reference to the heavyweight division, because we, had the whole thing in reference to the IBF and them, going to, try to order eliminator bouts. So I'm trying to look for if they have anything updated in reference to the heavyweight division, because they tried to order this thing here with Martin Bacoli versus I get Caballel, and that kind of like that kind of like fell through or whatever it was. So they were going on down the line in reference to a eliminator bout, because he said like maybe Caballel has another fight lined up. So it looked like they're saying that Martin McCauley versus Ilya Zhang, but that didn't kind of like go through. So they pretty much went down the line again. McCauley versus Efe Ajagba. That's interesting if the IBF did that, because if we have what they had, what was shown at the bottom, there was Ilya Zhang and Nagel Caballel. That's a higher rated fight than a McCauley versus a Efe Ajagba. Right now, you got Nagel Caballel at number 3, or the top spot there in the IBF rankings, and you got Ilya Zhang at number 5. Now, you got Martin McCauley at number 4, and you got Efe Ajagba there at number 7. The IBF ordered McCauley and Efe because they're going down the line with with the top guys. Yeah, so, but I'm like, man, if they had something with Ilya Zhang versus Nagel Caballel, then why couldn't that be the eliminator? If both of those guys are higher rated, that don't make much sense. But we'll see, because I reached out to a representative for Ilya Zhang, and they said that there's some news that's soon to be coming down in reference to Ilya Zhang. Now, from what I was mentioning earlier with the earlier topic, looks like there may be an announcement within the coming days, probably by next Wednesday, because with my previous conversation, it said, hey, we got of course what's going on Thursday, holiday, Friday, be an extended weekend, so you got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and folks getting back Monday, Tuesday, they pretty much getting everything situated, at least here stateside. So by the time midweek next week, we could see an announcement in reference to this proposed February 22nd card in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, with this, what we're seeing here, this doesn't look like a Golden Boy versus a Batroom card that was kind of like brought up before. But either way, this is still a really, really good proposed card there. Once again, big ups for everyone that's listening live here on YouTube and Rumble. Support by hitting the like button. You can semi-sponsor with the super chats or whatever it is. If you can do that, we really appreciate it here on the Boxing Source. But yeah, this thing here with this card, man, I feel like some of these fights are possible and some maybe not. And the one that I say is maybe not, just do, kind of like brought this up here earlier. Boots and Ortiz versus Vergil Ortiz. The thing there with that is Ortiz looks like he's willing, he's down to fight and be ready to fight there in February 22nd. He got his guy there, Oscar De La Hoya. You're really backing it in that type of stuff. But with Boots and Ennis, it would be really, really, really difficult to have that type of a turnaround to be there for this particular fight. We know about him having a fight there in Wells Fargo Center against Karen Chikadjian, and was able to go through 12 rounds for that. That was around the first weekend of this month. So now here we are at the end of November. You're gonna have December, you're gonna have January, you're gonna have February. Okay. Now it's saying that they may be in talks. That's what supposedly has been brought up, that they're in talks. This isn't just from who is it? Dan Rayfield, right? This is also from Lance Pugmire, right? So I wanted to get into that here too. Let's go to that real quick. I'm gonna share this thing here from Lance Pugmire, right? This should be up here. It says Boxing scene has learned that knockout machine Vergil Ortiz Jr. And IBF welterweight title holder Jerome Boots and Ennis have verbally agreed to fight for Ortiz's WBC interim junior middleweight belt, according to an official familiar with the negotiations but unauthorized to speak publicly on the matter because contracts are not signed yet. Let me just go through the rest of this article. Okay, the official said the bout is being pegged for what's becoming a stacked February 22nd card in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Al Sheikh is also aiming to anchor the card with the Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol 2 undisputed light heavyweight championship, and the whole stuff as far as like what I posted earlier there as far as like those 6 fights. Right. So he's also offered the Floyd Schofield joint with substantial sub to face Shakur Stevenson and heavyweights Agi Caballeros Lezang. Right. Okay. You got Ortiz coming off of his fight against Boychuk on August 10th. And like I said, there with Ennis fighting on November 9th. Ortiz traveled to Saudi Arabia for that November 16th Latino night card, for Golden Boy Promotions. Okay. While Ortiz maintained the outfight anybody philosophy to attain the championship belt, Ennis' interest in the bout has been viewed as being less earnest, according to an insider. Hey, shout out to my guy. Shout out to my guy, brother Terrell. Hey, this is what I'm talking about. Okay. That's my guy, brother Terrell. He first brought this up to me as far as like that particular article on Boxing Scene, when I saw it there, earlier today. And I'm like, hold up a second. Why would someone put this up? And the way that it's worded kind of has me really skeptical. For those that are listening live right now, if y'all have followed me for a while, there's like a number of folks within the boxing media circles that I have connections to or been connected to. One of them is my guy, Brother Jamil Parker of YSM Sports Media. And if y'all are familiar with Jamil or YSM Sports Media, y'all know who he pretty much speaks to the most and what videos are pretty much most prominent on his channel on YouTube. And that's Jerome Boots Ennis. And if y'all could pretty much like deduct from that how much that he is around Jerome Boots Ennis, around his camp, around what's going on with him and anything that's going down. If there's anyone that would know about something close to this happening, it's him. And from multiple conversations that we've had recently, this has been nah. Unless if they have something that came through within the past few hours or so, it says, "Oh, we're going to give a significant amount of money to see if you could go ahead and pull off this fight." Then no. And just being real. I mean, let's go. I'm going to see if we can go back to that article at Joe. Hey man, like I said, I haven't been able to get in contact with them since last weekend, last week, around this time last week. Had like a technical issue of sorts, and hadn't been able to reach him since then. But I tried to reach out through social media, but hadn't necessarily done that. But I mean, I think he's still posting here and there, whatnot. But as far as like specific technical issues, hadn't been able to kind of like get in contact with him on that. So But he should be all good as far as I know. If anything, I'll see if I can get an update. But I want to go back to this, this article from Lance Pugmire, man, because man, see, see some of this stuff, man. I just be, yeah. Exactly, Terrell. Exactly, Terrell. Exactly, Terrell. But let's go through this here real quick, man. Let's go through this here real quick. Boxing scene has learned that knockout machine Vergil Ortiz Jr. and IBF welterweight title holder Juan Boots and Ennis have verbally agreed to fight for Ortiz WBC interim junior middleweight belt, which he won from Sergey Bodachuk. According to an official familiar with the negotiations, but unauthorized to speak publicly on the matter because contracts are not signed yet. Let's go down further here. What did he say? Where's that whole joint at, man? He said, like, oh, while Ortiz has maintained an I'll fight anybody philosophy to attain the championship belt and greater riches, Ennis' interest in the bout has been viewed as being less earnest, according to an insider. Can we compare something here real quick? According to an official familiar with the negotiations, but unauthorized to speak publicly on the matter. According to an insider, something, see, all right, y'all, all right, let me see if I could go by this here. Y'all know that boxing scene is probably one of the leading, if not the leading, I guess, media outlets when it comes to websites and stuff like that. I'm trying to get there with the boxingsource.net, but I ain't got the time. I haven't had enough time for it, and they got multiple writers. I only got me, okay? At least for now, only got me. But when you have multiple writers or media people that contribute to the boxing scene, and some of them have been in the game for years, and they put out stuff that kind of sounds sketchy, or at least from my view, kind of sounds sketchy, I have an issue with that, because it's like you're trying to put out something in a PR type of thing. What I mean by that is, if you put it in a certain way that could particularly lean towards a fighter, then it would make it to be like, oh, this fighter tried to do this, but there wasn't that much interest on the other side, according to an insider or according to somebody. And now they're going a different direction because that other person wasn't interested or didn't want the fight. But here in this particular instance, we're talking about Juan Boots Ennis. And I brought up before, when it came to Boots Ennis, who you really, you'll kind of like reference. And like Brother Terrell was saying here, boxing scene has cited YSM Sports Media when it comes to Boots News. And yes, you probably could look it up on boxing scene. So why couldn't they do that now? That's the main question. Shout out to Terrell on that. Why is it that they can't reference YSM Sports Media when it comes to Boots Ennis in reference to this particular topic? I wonder why. But you know what? I might do a little bit more investigating when it comes to this particular thing, because this has happened before when it came to putting something out before anything was finalized, or even if it was going to happen in the first place. Because there's some times where something could be released out or put out there, and it'll be put in place of something to set up for something else, to give a fighter, promotional company, or whatever it is, a little bit more leeway. And just being real, I ain't with that. I ain't with that. Y'all could talk with the fighters, or try to access the fighters, or get in contact with the fighters, or their major guys, and see what's up. If not, there's like, you talk to an official or insider or this source or that or what. Nah, like I can't necessarily do that unless if I know for sure who that particular person is and how they're tied with a promotional company, a fighter, a manager, or whatever. Outside of that, I try not to even delve in it. That's just me. I mean, and I've been in that game for, well, at least like actually going to these events and covering the events and going to the gyms and all that type of stuff, pretty much around like 6-7 years, and been doing a podcast for about 9. It's about to be 10 years next year. But I'm just trying to, be as accurate as possible when it comes to certain news, certain, things and topics, that type of stuff. So when I see things that are being put out there, I try to see if I can get stuff verified. All right, let's see here, man. I got a notice here. So we're gonna try to get my guy to join in here a little bit. You try to get the audio joint to get on this thing here, because my guy, that's participating in the chat here, if they're going to see if he could jump on here for a little bit. Shout out to Sack Prince here. It says these are really good fights. It'd be really nice if it happened. Do you think it's going to happen? All right, I'm gonna try to go back onto the joint here for that card. I mean, it's on this article, but you got this list here on this side. You know what I mean? So we got Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, Baturviev versus Bivol 2, Jerron Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz, Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz, Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield, Zalea Zhang versus Aggie Cabello. All right. They're trying to aim for February 22nd. But out of these 6 fights, I would say like this is spades or something. 4 in a possible, maybe 4 in a possible. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. 4 in a possible. The 2 heavyweight fights. I think they could happen. You got Joseph Parker as the WBO interim champion right now. You got, of course, Daniel Dubois as defending IBF champion. I could see that happening. You got what is it? Yeah, because Joseph Parker. Remember that's an internal fight there. That's Queensbury Promotions. Joseph Parker is with Queensbury. Daniel Dubois is with Queensbury. They could go ahead and make that happen. Zalea Zhang versus Aggie Cabello. I was talking about this before. Zalea Zhang, his team was saying that there's something pretty much imminent to be announced here pretty soon. So it's looking like it may be this, because the IBF had ordered Bacoli versus Cabello. That didn't go through. They ordered Bacoli versus Zhang. Didn't go through. Sanchez looks like he's still injured or not available, at least at this particular point. So they went the next in line. So now they had ordered Bacoli versus Efe Ajagba. So Zalea Zhang versus Aggie Cabello, that's possible. It's definitely possible. We talked about Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. we may know more a week from now in reference to that. Since you just got on, we may know more about that a week from now. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz. I say that could happen. I don't think Adames is, really really tough to try to get a fight made for him. And with Hamza Shiraz, recently it wasn't recently. It's recently for me. I put up the rankings for the WBO, and Hamza Shiraz is not in the rankings for WBO. He was. He's not now, but he's still number one in the WBC as far as I know. So I think that one, that one's possible. That one's definitely possible. All right, we got my guy, Brother Terrell, checking in, man. Yo.
Hey, what's up, man? Yo, how's it going?
All good, man. All good. Just just resting and getting things set up here for what's going down for December, man. What's going down with you?
Yeah, just definitely listening to the show. I definitely want to just jump on for a little bit. Just talk about the irresponsible reporting from that boxing scene article.
Mhm.
Real quick, didn't they undergo a change in ownership about 3-4 years ago, right?
It wasn't like 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was more recent. That and they have different people that have been added on to boxing scene. I think you had who is it? We had a few, like I said, with Lance Pugmire being on there. Keith Idec is not on there anymore. And we got like a few other writers that are part of it, but yeah, they've gone through a recent change on their end.
And then your boy Jake used to be on there too, right?
Yeah, Jake Donovan. He should still be on there. He should still be on there.
Yeah, just just with that change, I think particularly after that change happened, we definitely saw a downgrade in the sense of their writing and reporting, everything. Definitely boxing scene that's been around for a good while, has been a good, reliable, constant, reliable source of reporting in the sport of boxing. But when you get back to just basic reporting of news, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a unbiased opinion. You're not going for either side. You're just simply reporting the news, right? And more so than I do, when you report a story, have a source, a credible source,
Mm-hmm.
an accurate source, right? And that source should be referencing your story, right? That way, if media questions go back to that source, they can verify the story at that point.
Yeah.
Now, when you have someone saying someone familiar with the negotiations, I smell bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just pretty much write a story in this day and age, like so to get the clickbait stuff like that, to get attention, and for a website like Boxing Scene, who has credibility in the sport,
Mm-hmm.
right? For them to have even send that to print per se, is just irresponsible, right? It kind of reminds me of what's my man on Twitter. They used to make all these breaking news tweets all the time.
Benson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some of the stuff he did was kind of irresponsible, right? And it's a shame because you're in the position to report responsibly. You're in these inner circles, right? Like that, and you do stuff like that. Even this guy right here, Pugmire, it's shameless. It's shameless.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about it is that I'm trying to have it to where when I report stuff that is kind of verifiable by folks that I know that are within the business, and there's some things that, like, for example, that I would have from somebody that I know is close to a party, and then I still verify it. And whether they say it's 100% true or it's close, it just depends on if I want to go ahead and push it out.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, in many cases, there for the past few months, I haven't said like, oh, this is happening. I say it's potentially happening, or it could be close, or whatever. And that's why I had started on the boxingsource.net the rumor mill, because with the rumor mill, it's like saying, hey, this is being worked on. This could potentially happen. This is close. So it's not like saying, hey, oh, they agreed to terms or they agreed to fight or something like that. No, that's something that I don't quite do, because if you do that and then it ends up not happening, then it comes back to you, and it like stems back to like what it was earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where one of those like boxing media joints was saying that oh yeah, IFL TV had posted out that Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson are set to clash in the unified lightweight world title fight in Las Vegas on November 23rd. That was by IFL TV, posted up by IFL TV. The first person that denied that was Shakur Stevenson. So that just tells you, like, when folks kind of post stuff out there like that, depending on how big the news could be, you're really putting your credibility on the line by doing something like that. So I try not to do that type of stuff here, and just make sure that, hey, if it's verified, I'm all good, and then I'll just post where I post. But outside of that, I'm really not into breaking stories or breaking something in reference to that, because if it ends up not following through, then well, you have to say, I guess, okay, now it's not happening. Why is it not happening? You would have to explain why it's not happening, or you would say, what, my sources were incorrect? Nah, I don't even want to go through all that. Feel me? So,
and even in that regards, it's like, say for example, you are privy to some information in regards to some upcoming fight or negotiations, or even whatever it may be, step aside money going to a fighter. If you're in that room, right, and you send a print news of that, and they told you not to do that. For one, you just burned your bridge with that party. You burned your bridge, and not only that, like you just said, your reader base, you're putting out false information that's unverified, just get a clickbait like that, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, you're going to lose your customer base. You have zero credibility. Like, I'm not reading that from there, that site. It's just a fly-by-night site just look for attention. That's all it is.
Yep, for sure. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that, I get accurate information and I submit accurate information in reference to that. So, when it came to something like this in reference to the whole thing with, like, say, for example, with that Vergil Ortiz and Jerome Boots Ennis, I was saying there, man, that if I know about, somebody that is dealing with this particular fighter, then I'll go to that person. I'll go to that person. And if they say something different than what's being put out there, then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Why is this being posted then? And that's why I said earlier, sometimes they post things in order to have something viewed, or have a fighter or a promotional company viewed in a certain way, so that once something actually comes out, that they aren't really criticized for what actually happens, because it's being put out that, oh, we tried to do this, or we tried to make this fight happen, or anything like that. Like, I'm not, all too cool with that.
Yeah, and you just even like we talked about a little bit in our chat group, common sense wise, Boot just fought November 9th. what sense does that make for him to have a quick turnaround for a major fight in a division he's never fought in before? Does that make sense like that? I mean, is the money that significant? I mean, that because the opportunity to fight Ortiz is going to be there, whether it be February or even next summer. The opportunity will be there, likely, right? Barring that Ortiz loses it somehow, maybe Crawford or something like that. That opportunity will definitely be there. If not Ortiz, definitely someone else at 154, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just common sense wise, I'm not gonna be. I just got done fighting. Your body needs to rest, recover, physically, spiritually, all that stuff right there. So you just recover and come and then get back into the ring, and let them go back into another training camp. So it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no sense at all. Because as we mentioned, you have Jerome Boots Ennis that fought on what? That's November 9th. Um, and so you mean to tell me that he's going to go through a 12-round fight November 9th, then have a couple of weeks here to recover whatever it is, and then turn around and try to get back into camp for another fight in February. So December, January, February. That would be a quick turnaround, according to a guy that had just been trying to get himself more active. So okay, you would have July, you would have November, and then you would have February. Well, on the flip side, you got Vergil Ortiz that just only had the one bout August 10th. You probably had something there before that. I think it was like February, where he only had what I wouldn't even say a 1 round bout there. Because if I'm not mistaken, he fought a guy that was barely around at like 154 pounds, and it was like a 1 round bout. So like, what are we doing? Like, you have a one, oh yeah, he had two of them. So he had a 1 round bout against Frederick Lawson, who I didn't feel like was a 1 round guy. And then you have another 1 round bout against Thomas Delorme. Come on, man. What are we doing? Thomas Delorme, yes, that Thomas Delorme that was fighting at 140 and 147. Yep, that same guy. So he has those two bouts, and then he has the bout against Sergey Boychuk where he gets knocked down twice. It ends up being a majority decision in favor of Vergil Ortiz, where I guess two judges felt like he won 8 of those 12 rounds. He didn't win 8 of those 12 rounds. I can tell you that for sure. If it's a yeah, I'm not even going to get into that there a little bit. But back to this whole thing in reference to, what we're talking about. His last bout was on August 10th. Boots' last bout was a few weeks ago. So you mean to tell me that you're trying to see if Boots could go ahead and turn around and have his first fight at 154 pounds against Vergil Ortiz, and he just said, for the bout against Shakur, he was able to make 146 and still, get there 146. And a fight against Vergil Ortiz now really doesn't make that much sense when, one, you could still have bouts with, like I said, Mario Barrios, Iman Stanionis, and Brian Norman Jr. at 147. They're world champions at 147. Vergil Ortiz is an interim champion at 154. So there isn't much reason to try to go into that particular fight at this particular juncture. And the other thing, too, is Vergil Ortiz is pretty much getting a boost by trying to be involved in the Riyadh season card. Boots, he's had 2 fights in his hometown. Just had 2 fights in his hometown. He's the guy that's the A side. He's the guy that would be the one that should be giving out what the demands are. Why concede all of that to go up to 154 for a interim belt at, at 154 against a guy that, hasn't really proven himself that much. I know that some people have said, like, oh, in reference to Boots Ennis, they said he was chasing Terrence Crawford, and Terrence Crawford at 154, and maybe he should go and fight such and such, at 154, and then maybe he'll get a fight against Terrence Crawford. Well, the thing is, he was at 147 when Terrence Crawford was at 147 and didn't get a fight against Terrence Crawford. So what's the point of him moving up to 154 to try to get a fight with Terrence Crawford if Terrence Crawford wasn't fighting him at 147? That's on one side. The other side is with Vergil Ortiz. Y'all could build that particular fight between Ortiz and Boots Ennis later on down the line at 154 to be a really, really big fight. So why do it now? If you know that you may have potential with Vergil Ortiz Jr., and we already know what's there with Jerome Boots Ennis, why not just wait it out until later on to have a fight between those two guys in 154?
Yeah, I said this. Even with Boots' post-fight comments, he said that he is definitely get hard for him to get down to 147. We know that. We see that. And he said that there's still business at 147, like you just enumerated. Barrios, Brian Norman, and Sammy Ennis, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's there's still that desire there for him to unify the division, and that's still right there in front of him, and for fights that can be made. Would be even Brian Norman needs to just accept his market value for one to make that fight happen. Sam was, I think, mentioned Boots or something like that, so that's possible. And even what's my name, Master Barrios, he's available too. He just fought on the Jake Paul undercard, did a great job in that fight. That was a split decision draw. What was that on that one?
That was a split draw, yes.
Yeah. So him, once again, all those fights are going to be available next year for Boots in order to unify the division. So, like I said, fights that make sense at 154, they will be there. Not in the immediate future, but they will be there late next year, depending on how he fares and getting down the weight back again at 147. Is he's able to fight for a title, unify, things like that. So it's a few factors, but like I said, he'll get to 154 when it makes sense, and right now it doesn't make sense.
Right. And the thing is with Boots Ennis, I'll say this. Quote unquote, okay, a source has pretty much said that they're trying to work towards having a unification bout with Boots Ennis and Iamanis Stanionis, and that there's been contact between the party of Stanionis and the party of Boots Ennis to try to make that fight happen, because Stanionis is a WBA champion, and the number one contender and supposed mandatory is Shakur, who is under Matchroom Boxing, just like Boots Ennis is. So if they could try to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? We're going to want to see if we can make this fight happen between Boots and Stanionis, and we're willing to pay step-aside money to or towards Shakur in order to make this happen. I would say that, for Eddie Hearn's sake, go ahead and get that money. And for Shakur, you could say, hey, that's free money. You would have a bigger fight there for the the IBF and the WBA welterweight championships, and that would be the unification fight that Boots Ennis has been looking for. I mean, that's why he pretty much joined or tried to sign with Matchroom Boxing, is because he wanted to get the fights that he wasn't able to get, while being quote unquote under PBC, when he wasn't technically under PBC or Heyman Boxing, but still, he wasn't necessarily getting the fights that he wanted to get while being, as I would say, subcontracted of sorts to Heyman Boxing, or the, as they say, Premier Boxing Champions, which is, not a promotional company. But still, I mean, that's the thing there, that we got to see how that's going to sort itself out, because I said the whole thing in reference to this proposed card, that some of these fights are, potential that they could possibly happen, and some pretty much seem like they're, a little bit ways off, with that, So, trying to see here what else they got on this proposal card. Like I said, Baturviev versus Bivol 2, February. I don't know about that either. This is why I was hoping that I could get in contact with brother Joe in reference to this, since he talks with the manager there for Baturviev, and one of the head trainers there for Baturviev. They will be able to give more insight to if there's a quick turnaround for that, or a good enough turnaround to have this rematch be on February 22nd. But as far as like that particular date, I'm not all too sure about that. That'd be a real interesting turnaround, but we'll see how that goes. Adonis versus Shiraz. Adonis fought what was that, in June? And that was what, against freaking who's the guy? Because he was one of those contenders at 154, whatever it was. So I didn't feel like it wasn't a good fight at all either. Terrell Garcia. Yeah, that wasn't a good fight, man. That wasn't a good fight. I didn't like that fight at all. That was bad. Going up against Hamza Shiraz, who's been, one of the, fastest rising fighters there in the middleweight division. Has had a couple of good wins. There had a win over Ammo Williams. There in that matchroom versus Queensbury 5v5. That was June 1st of this year, and then turn around.
That was a tough fight.
and then turned around. A few months later, was at Wembley Stadium there against Tyler Denny, which in that fight, that was like they just put up an opponent for Hamza Shiraz on that one, man. That was an easy bout for Hamza Shiraz there. And now, now it looks like they're trying to put him in position to be a, top contender there for the WBC middleweight title. So as far as like that fight is concerned, hey, maybe it could happen. I mean, I've seen, some word, I think it was from Carlos Adames, saying that, hey, they may have a fight out here, that's being worked on, and we could try to see if we can make that happen. And then they said, but also like Carlos Adames had brought up or retweeted something as far as like him being a potential opponent for Canelo Alvarez. Nah.
Who's that? Who?
Adames. He posted it. Hold on. Let me see if I go ahead and do this thing here, man. I don't even know who this original poster is on this joint, man. But that's kind of crazy.
That's far fetched at best.
Yeah. I mean, it said, hold on. Let me see if I can run it. Who is this Arthur Vargas Lujan? Like, I have no idea who that is. Like, come on, man. Like, who would put this up there? But Carlos Adames shared it, which is crazy. It says, Canelo Alvarez could fight against Jamal Charlo and Carlos Adames in the months of May and September in 2025 because he had a good business relationship with Haliman on PBC.
There's your source.
Right. And the Carlos Adames retweets and it says, bomb versus bomb or something like that, man. Yo, that's crazy. That's just absolutely crazy. They would put something in there like that. But I feel like Adames versus Shiraz is, really, really good fight. Particularly since, as I mentioned before, with Hamza Shiraz. He was on the WBO rankings previously. He was there at number one, and now, yeah, he ain't there number one. He ain't there number one or whatever it is, man. They had him there number one, and then now he ain't. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Uh, one,
I tell you what, the last
yeah.
time I jumped on the show, we spoke about Shiraz. Great talent, great prospect, right?
Mhm.
And I kind of allude to the fact where I say, you know what? I said with these fights, with Riyadh's season being in boxing, being that he's from I think Morocco, right? Well, he's from one of those African countries.
He
Politic,
he's well he's like based in like Muslim, but he's
yeah,
from the UK though.
yeah. So, but still, with his heritage and with
Mhm.
Riyadh season being active, don't you think they will want their own champion?
Well, it's I guess semi champion or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So
and so even though he's based in UK, he got that bloodline for that region like that,
mhm, mhm.
and it's like, and it's no shame about it. Here in America, we like having our black fighters that are champions things like that. Would it be a Wilder, Mayweather, stuff like that? We champion those people. It's the same thing around the world. Same thing in Japan. They champion Inoue. They
Anyway,
love him. He represents them as a people. And as far as Shears, they would love to have their own person that they can that's like them in that sense. So, but
yeah,
I like the fight. I definitely like. Out of all these fights on this proposed card, that's the one that interests me the most. The most. Even I love Bevo Better Be
mhm,
too, but a bit too soon. We don't need that right now. Let these guys chill out and like I said, quick turnaround for that.
yeah,
Uh, but the Shears Adamas fight. I know you said Adamas didn't have a good fight his last time out, but I still think he's the best at 160. Him and Janibek. So that's just me.
yeah. They say like those two are like the top two fighters there in the middleweight division. But then like I said, like not that far below there would be Hamza Shiraz. So that would kind of like be something there to try to get them, or at least Damas and Shiraz, as far as like top five guys in the middleweight division, to be matched up against each other. One of the let me see if I could put this back on here. So you see there, these are the rankings there from the WBO for this month that just recently been posted up, and I showed the one from September with Hamza Shiraz there at number one, and now here you are in November, he's not on there. He was on there for the October rankings too, but now here, nope, he's not on there. But they got Denzel Bentley there at number one, which I don't even know how he's number one on this thing here, because I mean this is the same guy that already got beat by Zanabek in 2022. So yeah, I don't know how. Well, I don't know. This is almost like how Karen Chukadjan became number one guy in the IBF and the welterweight rankings. There, that's what this is looking like. Like, come on, man, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing? But that just leaves Zanabek out there with, I guess, no real opponent to try to look for, I guess. So that's gonna be something for him to try to deal with, but yeah, but that fight, as far as like the Adamas versus Shiraz, that would be a good fight there at 160 pounds. I would be, really interested in seeing that one too. We talked about Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. We talked about that possibility between Zalea Zhang and Agi Cabello as well. Then, Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker there.
What was that you saying earlier about Bacoli? Because I would love to see him on a Riyadh card.
Well, the thing with Bacoli is, I mean, he was part of that Riyadh card in Los Angeles when he defeated Jared Anderson. They were saying they would try to do a fight between Bacoli and Agi Cabello. That was the original order by the IBF. Apparently, That didn't happen because Bacoli, I guess, asked for too much money for that fight or whatever it is. That's a report, but they still have, Martin Bacoli as the guy that is able to be ordered to face other fighters. But I mean, I find that interesting because, as of the recent rankings there for the IBF, right? He, he's there at number 4, and you got Agacabio rated above him. So if he's rated above him, then how is it that IBF was making the order, and then they said that Bacoli is the guy that supersedes Cabello when it comes to a final eliminator? That to me didn't make much sense. But with that initial fight falling through, then they went down the line and they said, okay, maybe we get Bacoli versus Zhang. Now that I would have been really, really intrigued by that fight if they were able to make that fight. But it looks like as of right now, that's out of the cards because the IBF looked like they were ordered Bacoli versus F.A. Ajagba. So you're going to have a guy that's rated at number 4 against a fighter there that's rated at number 7 in an eliminator bout. Yeah, I mean, if that's what they got, then that's what they got. But yeah,
that does not interest me at all. It doesn't. I mean, I know they're top 10 in the rankings like that, but Ajagba lost about 3 or 4 fights ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still, I mean, he's still solid. Still one of my personal favorites because of stature for the division now. But he's okay. He's okay. But does he rate eliminator? I don't think so. I think he's a few fights away from proving and showing us that I'm right there on the verge of a title shot. So I don't think he's there yet, even though I favor him. I like him as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But Bacoli, oh yeah, he's ready.
Yeah. You definitely say that about Bacoli, man. He's definitely ready. There, I'd like to see Bacoli against any one of these top guys there in the heavyweight division. So that's why I wanted to see like a Bacoli versus, an Agacabio or Zalea Zhang, or maybe a Joseph Parker or somebody like that, or even against Daniel Dubois, like Daniel Dubois versus Martin Bacoli right now. Ooh, that would be a really, really good looking fight if they could have something like that. But
oh yeah, definitely, because even with the way that Bacoli took out Jared Anderson, and what I mean by particularly what we know Jared Ennis is a good active heavyweight as far as punch output, and Bacoli took everything he had to offer. Now, granted, I know Bacoli's much older than Anderson. We know that, but still, this is boxing and this is heavyweight boxing. But Bacoli was just really unfazed by everything that Jared Anderson brought to the table. But for someone like what's the British guy you just mentioned? What's his name again? Dubois.
Yeah.
He's seasoned now, more experienced, shown metal with his chin, and just anything more confident. So he would definitely go into a fight with Bacoli with confidence, and a nice little win streak on top of that. So that would definitely be a firefight for as long as that would last. And me personally, with what Bacoli showed me last fight, I don't know who's out there that could beat him. I really don't know. Even a stick style like Usyk, because eventually he would catch Usyk. Eventually, so.
Yeah, he'll catch Usyk, and that's the thing, man. What would those fighters do once getting hit with a solid shot? You know what I mean? But yeah, it just looks like that. That's what they're working on here currently is for Bacoli and Ajagba to go ahead and face each other. So maybe that was it. It was that for that particular fight between Bacoli and Agacabio, I guess the money wasn't right for Bacoli for that fight. but maybe it's right enough for a fight between him and Efe Ajagba in this particular sense. So we like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes down if they go ahead and finalize that fight. I think that's probably more doable there than some of these other potential fights that they could have had there for Martin McCauley. And for Zhang and Nugget Caviel as a potential matchup, that I think that could be put together as well. And for Joseph Parker to have another opportunity to fight for a world title, then that would be a good look here for Joseph Parker. Of course, with the rematch between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury coming up here in December, then this is probably one of the better fights to make there in the heavyweight division at this particular point. You know what I mean? So that kind of like shapes up that particular card. I just got to see, how close these fights are from getting made. There, as like I said, with these two potential bouts that have been proposed for that date, we'll know more about it here in the next week or so. Pretty much like within the next week, I would say. So there's that. You know what I mean?
And who's McCauley promoted by?
That's a good question. I think he was under Boxer, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't see him like him being around. He definitely is in Matchroom. And he's not Queensborough as far as I know. So I think he has more, I guess, more leeway of sorts, so to speak, there. But I was thinking like he's under Boxer, if I'm not mistaken.
And the job is still under the Top Rank umbrella, right?
Yeah, Ajagba was under Top Rank.
Yep.
Because as of February of last year, McCauley was signed with Boxer. So that's that. I don't know. Maybe there's a outside shot that maybe he could be the opponent for Daniel Dubois. There was like a article a few weeks ago, saying that he's ready to face Dubois. But that's like through his promoter there, Ben Shalom, who is the head of Boxer, that promotional company. So, like I said, I wouldn't mind that fight at all. I wouldn't mind that fight at all. So we could get something like that. We can't, as far as like the heavyweights go, from what I showed that was proposed, we can't necessarily get Joseph Parker versus Agit Cabiel because they kind of like were buddies and that type of stuff, so they don't necessarily want to fight. So that can't happen. You can't have Zhang versus Joseph Parker. They already fought. Joseph Parker got that win, so you have that. Maybe you can have Joseph Parker versus Martin McCauley, and maybe have Daniel Dubois versus Zhang. I don't know.
I would love that would be a great set of fights.
But see, you can see those combinations there within the heavyweight division alone, and you would still get potential great matchups out there. You know what I mean? That's why I was like, man. I mean, you had the whole thing with the Usyk versus Fury rematch coming up, but when you had the whole thing with the heavyweight thing last year, you had a number of those good fights that were part of that. So it's like all of these fights that are available there at heavyweight, you could go ahead and try to get that and make that happen. But we'll see. Speaking of that that rematch, you're also going to have that Sergey Boychuk versus Israel Madrimov fight on that card in the super welterweight division. That's going to be huge for both of those guys. Huge. You got Madrimov that had his first loss there to Terrence Crawford. You had Sergey Boychuk that had the close loss to Vergil Ortiz. That's going to be a really key bout there at 154 pounds too. So that would be another one that I would kind of like be eyeing there on December 21st there for that. So that's what they got there on that, man. But that's mainly what I had here for the midweek report. As I said before, I'm going to be looking more into more news when it comes to the Floyd Schofield and Shakur Stevenson thing, and also with Jerome Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz to see if there's like anywhere closer to having those fights happen. But at least, at the very least, there from the side about Shakur Stevenson and Floyd Schofield, we may know something for sure by next week. We may know something for sure by next week.
One quick question.
All right.
Give me your top 3 most interesting boxing divisions right now. And when I say what's most interesting in terms of matchups, the possibility of those matchups, and just importance of those matchups at the same time.
Actually, it shouldn't be that difficult. At least for me, it's not. In no order. Heavyweight, super welterweight, lightweight. Those 3 divisions. We just talked about the whole thing with the heavyweight division. Super welterweight. I just mentioned the whole what we got that's coming up here on December 21st. Sergey Boychuk versus Israel Madrimov. You got Vergil Ortiz Jr. in there. You got Terrence Crawford in there. You got Bakram Murtazaliev, in that division. As a champion there that beat up Tim Tszyu, man. He just beat him up. It was just terrible. He just beat him up, right? You got Sebastian Fundora, the unified champion. You got Jesus Ramos Jr. You got Erickson Lubin, who beat Jesus Ramos Jr. You got Xander Zayas, a young guy there. You got Yoenis Tejas is coming up in the rankings. You got Charles Conwell, who actually should be the guy that may end up facing Vergil Ortiz. But that's a whole nother story there. But yeah, that's just a number of fighters there that I was talking about. Talking about Xander Zayas, they're saying that they could potentially have a matched up with Vito Mielnicki Jr., who's now ranked number 4, at least currently in the WBA rankings. Maybe we get an update on the WBA rankings on Friday or Saturday or something like that, because they usually have their new rankings at the end of the month. But you have a Vito Mielnicki and a Xander Zayas fighting each other at 154. You can have, like I said, Boychuk versus Madrimov is going to be a key bout. They talk about Fundora and Errol Spence, and we'll see for sure what's going to happen with that. Jesus Ramos Jr. is going to be fighting on February 1st against Jason Rosario, former unified champion there at super welterweight. So that tells you how much activity that the super welterweight division has there at that point. And then, like I said, with lightweight, Tank Davis, Lomachenko, Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda, Floyd Schofield, Ray Murray, Keyshawn Davis. Just with that, Andy Cruz,
yeah, it's funny because 154 used to be I won't say relatively quiet division when Baby Charlie was there, but there was fights there, but it wasn't this type of significant activity. But now what you just outlined, the class is deep from the middle to the top, deep, right? And same thing with lightweight, but first I was gonna say heavyweight, but as you outline 154, wow, it's just that's at the top of that division is interesting. Crawford's there for us, like you said, but just fights that could be just the multitude of matchups is what's most interesting right there. So,
word.
Yeah, definitely top 3 in boxing, definitely.
Yep, for sure. Shout out to Sig Talk, just coming on. He has a question. With Shakur hands being brittle, what happens if he hurts his hand in the fight? Does he have enough to keep Floyd off? And could Kid cut off the ring and finish? We know he got power. Well, I mean, we got to see, after Shakur Stevenson had surgery, how much he is able to, really do some, action there with his hands. I mean, we know he has, one of the best defensive games in boxing, you know, and that, he uses distance to pretty much keep a number of his opponents away from him, distance and timely movement, foot movement. So he'll be able to try to utilize that here against Floyd Schofield if the fight happens. And the thing with Floyd Schofield is does he have the ability to cut off the ring and finish? We got to see. He's just been in here for a little bit, man. What I would say, he's a young fighter. Just in there at 22 years old, 22. And he'll be going up against Shakur Stevenson, like I said, Olympic silver medalist, most high division champion. They're 126, 130, now 135. And it would be a really interesting bout here at this particular point for Floyd Schofield if he's able to lock down a fight here against Shakur Stevenson. But we got to see if how he does here in this particular sense. I mean, we've seen Floyd Schofield here in his recent bout, that he had, and some folks thought that maybe he had a little bit of issues there against Rene Tejas, there, who's a pretty really rugged guy. He had the whole thing with the knockdown in round 11. I think that was more about foot placement with that type of stuff. With Rene Tejas, I was at his fight before that against Alex Delmagani, and that was like a absolute bloodbath out there in Washington, D.C. Man, I had blood splattered all over the shirt and all that type of stuff there for that bout. But Tejas is a tough Mexican fighter, man. So it's a completely different style from fighting a Rene Tejas to a Shakur Stevenson. And so they end up trying to get this fight done. You're gonna have to have a good amount of work for Floyd Schofield to try to be able to at least keep up with Shakur Stevenson. I think with Shakur Stevenson, he's there at he's fairly fairly tall fighter there at 135, if I'm not mistaken. Well, he got Floyd Schofield listed at 5'7". Well, Shakur Stevenson's not that much taller there at 5'8". So we'll see. One of the things is that Stevenson uses that range to try to move around the ring against a lot of his opponents. Will he be able to do that against a Floyd Schofield? We'll see. He wants to bang. Shakur doesn't. Yeah, he wants to get in the ring and get in the nitty gritty. I mean, now I'm not gonna put that stick on Floyd Schofield Jr. like that right now, because in the past, I've spoken with Floyd Schofield Jr., spoken with Floyd Schofield Sr. Actually, there, since you just got on, before I started this, I just had a conversation with Floyd Schofield Sr. So as far as seeing what's going to be going on here for that particular fight, like I said, we'll know hopefully a little bit more after this, holiday break. And then around this time next week, then we'll know for sure if we get that fight signed. So just stay tuned here on the Boxing Source, and we'll see if we can get that situated there. But that that's what I got here on my end. We'll see if we can get back at it here on Sunday as far as the live Boxing Source podcast. But we'll see, man. Said you talk with Najee, and he said he's only worried about the distance, and that's what he's working on looking for. Yeah. So as far as having that, maybe they'll get the right people to get Floyd Schofield prepared for something like that. As far as guys that keep their arm out. Well, actually, it's wrong because Shakur Stevenson's southpaw, so he'll have his lead hand as the right hand. So have the lead hand as right hand, touch up, move off to the side, move back off to the side and everything like that. But also, you had an interview on YSM Sports Media that had Wally Moses, and Wally Moses, of course, grandfather and trainer there for Shakur Stevenson, said that, after this surgery, you may see a different version of Shakur Stevenson. I guess that, he'll be more, confident in throwing them hands and landing shots or something like that. Or, maybe we'll see him be more of like how he was against Jamel Herring over in Atlanta or something. I don't know. But as far as like this potential bout, I'm like, why not? If you can't have Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda, why not? I'd rather have this than have Shakur Stevenson fighting a Joe Cordina or a Mark Chamberlain. Like, come on, man.
Or one other person you didn't name.
Who?
Cambosos.
Oh, Cambosos. Yeah, definitely ain't gonna be Cambosos. Oh, you know what though? Speaking of Cambosos, before I roll out, okay, a little bit bonus because I got a couple things here with Elise Cambosos and another fighter there that's at this particular division. Of course, he had a recent news for George Kambosos Jr. First, he signed a co-promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing alongside Lou DiBella and DiBella Entertainment. And you also have Ferocious Promotions, which is, George Ferocious Kambosos. So there's that. Said that he's going to be, trying to campaign at 140 pounds. So we're going to see him there at 140 pounds. And that, there could be some options out there for him at 140 pounds. I was suggesting maybe Regis Prograis, but I don't think it's going to be a Regis Prograis there. They said, let me see here, man. Where's my joint for the email joint? Because I had got that information there a couple of days ago in reference to that. Looks like I may try to get something with Otto Wallin there, so I might get something with that as well. I just recently got a response as far as like getting an interview with Otto Wallin because he is slated to face Derek Chisora. I think it's supposed to be over in Manchester there because they pretty much announced that was going down, right? So may have something there, another fight or another interview with Otto Wallin. That's going to be a interesting bout there in the heavyweight division. There it is set February 8th in Manchester with Derek Chisora and Otto Wallin. So yeah, that had been announced earlier today, right? But back with the thing there with George Kambosos, he will be there to move up to 140 pounds and have a fight in early 2025 in an event to be announced soon. I mean, that's what they're saying with that. So I think they're going to have probably another bout for George Kambosos that may be in Australia or something like that to get him in the mix there at 140 pounds before he tries to go after world title contenders and then maybe challenge for a world title. But we'll see how that goes. But on that front, one of those fighters that's at 140 that George Kambosos defeated at 135 was another former unified champion at 135 pounds, the current WBO champion at 140 pounds, Teofimo Lopez. So apparently Teofimo Lopez made a little statement that said that, he reached out to, a couple of fighters there to try to make a fight. I reached out to, what was it, Devin Haney or George Kambosos, and both have declined. If you don't believe it, ask Top Rank Boxing and Bruce Trampler. And he tagged Bruce Trampler. Now, the thing that's interesting for me is that this is the same Teofimo Lopez that has had a little bit of issues, so to speak, when it comes to getting things done or getting fights made with Top Rank, because he would be asking for a certain amount of money for those fights to happen, and they ain't going to have that type of money for it. This is the same Teofimo Lopez that has been reported early this year declined to fight Ryan Garcia for a base salary of $1.5 million with a pay-per-view back-end. And that is why we ended up getting Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney, and why we ended up getting Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz in Las Vegas. So there's the thing with that, man. He says, well, I want to see them all just fight, man. Like who you want to see them all just fight? I don't know who you're talking about in particular. I don't know if you were on here live out there, brother Antonio, but like, we got a multitude of fights that could potentially happen and everything like that. But man, we know boxing is a business, and the business sometimes really sucks. So we got to see, at least with at least with these two, we got to see how that goes here over the next week. But yeah, back to the thing there with Teofimo Lopez when he made that post. What is it? About 8 hours ago or something like that. Hold on. Let me see what Teofimo out here talking about. Oh my God, I said I'm following these joints. I shouldn't be following this dude. Just to be honest with you. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna say here we go. Here's the post. We sent reasonable offers to fight both Team Haney and Team Kambosos. Both have declined. If you don't believe it, ask top-ranked boxer Bruce Champler. To put George Kambosos' name on here is pretty interesting. Because if there's anybody that does make tweets or send responses, it's George Kambosos. And let's see, man. Oh yeah, let's see if I could. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I could post that response there by George Kambosos there real quick, because if there's anybody that will respond, it's George Kambosos, and yeah, he pretty much said like, "Hey, this is cap." He said this is pretty much cap. You said, wait, hold on. You said, well, there's your reasonable offer or something like that. He said, yeah, there's your reasonable offer. The year for guys, like I said, 2021, and like I say now in 2024. What reasonable offer? You know nothing about money, pay-per-views, or selling tickets. You fight in wedding ballrooms these days. You don't know if you're coming to go. If you really want it, like I always say, you know where to find me. Bring your daddy to.
Wow.
We're already 2-0 against you clowns. Your bosses don't respect you anyway, just like I didn't respect you in Manhandle.
Wow. Shots fired.
And then put in that one of those pics there of him like busted up.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So I'm like, man, yeah, I told you, if there's anybody that you don't want to go ahead and have a little back and forth with, it's George Kambosos. He don't care. He'll go back and forth with anybody. He's done it there with Shakur Stevenson or Richardson Hitchens or like anybody like that. So if there's anyone that you don't necessarily try to go after his social media, it's George Kambosos there. So as far as like this particular fight, rematch, I don't know. And if there's anything, like Bruce Trampler would probably say something about it. Maybe Carl Moretti would have some insight on it. But as far as like that, yeah. I'm kind of like up in the air as far as like if that was gonna happen. You know what I mean?
I would be more than partially optimistic for that. I mean, it's considering that was what 3-4 years ago, and now these two have definitely went separate ways. Too at 140, got his belt there, had a couple fights there and things like that. With Kambosos having been the couple fights with Haney. He lost both of those, we know, by a wide margin. He's good. I'm kind of I thought he was going to go away, but kind of glad to see him stay. But there's still some business there for him in boxing, and that's it for him and Tio. A few years removed from their fight at 135.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind. There's money there for it, I think.
Yeah. Yep. So, and the thing is with Teofimo Lopez, at the very least, right now, like I said, what did he have? He had the fight there against Jermaine Ortiz. And folks weren't necessarily all too pleased about that. Then he had the fight against Steve Claggett, a few months later in Miami Beach, there in front of I don't know, about 4,000 people or something like that. I mean, that was like around the same spot that what was it, the Ali versus Sonny Liston fight was or something. But now like he's not necessarily in these like large venues. And at least as of right now, he used to have, that whole thing where he would fight around Heisman weekend over in, Madison Square Garden or the theater at Madison Square Garden. And you don't necessarily have that no more. So it's like, well, after him getting the win over Josh Taylor for that WBO super lightweight title, he hasn't really had a impressive performance, so it'd be really interesting here to see like what his next move will be, because he's putting something out there public, and sometimes when they put something out there in public, then something else is being worked out in private. And I think with Teofimo Lopez, that's probably the case, is that something else is being worked out in private. You feel me? So I'm not all too intrigued by Teofimo Lopez making those statements, because you could go one direction and then something will be completely elsewhere. You know what? I would kind of be more impressed by Teofimo Lopez if he just waited it out a little bit and, like, say for example, would face Arnold Barboza. Barboza, went ahead and had his win over, Jose Carlos Ramirez, almost a couple weeks ago there. And he's, a top, contender out there at 140 pounds. Why not go ahead and have a fight with Arnold Barboza Jr.? I would see about trying to make that. Like you'll face a top rated guy. So why not go ahead and do that? But outside of that, I really don't see any other route for Teofimo Lopez to go ahead and fight somebody, unless if it's Devin Haney or something like that. And the problem with that is Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney would ask for way too much money on both sides. And we all know, and we both know, just being honest, we both know that they don't have enough following to have a fight of that magnitude and, and put out an event that would kind of like make money for all parties involved. I just don't see it.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, with Devin Haney, he had his fight with Ryan Garcia, but pretty much a good percentage of that was Ryan Garcia that was building that fight. So, here with these two, even though both Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney have kind of, have verbal jabs with each other on multiple occasions, I really don't see that fight happening where all parties involved would be satisfied with the money that's being put out there. This is the same Devin Haney that wouldn't accept $1.5 or so million or 1.6 or whatever it is to have a mandatory defense of the WBC title against Sandor Martin. So if he isn't satisfied with the $1.6 million to fight a Sandor Martin, you could imagine how much money he would probably request for a potential fight against Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, good luck with that, y'all. Good luck with that. But that that's my whole stick in reference to Teofimo Lopez and what he's potentially trying to aim for. But I just feel like what he posted is just a line, like how you had a fishing line and you're trying to get your bait, as to say, like, or in a meme, that's bait. So I feel like that's bait when it comes to Teofimo Lopez. There's something else that I feel like is being worked on for that, and that's what I have there in reference to that, man. Anything else there from you, brother Terrell?
No, we definitely covered quite a bit, and once again, a great job on just highlighting the entire boxing division, and in regards to what's going on now and in the future. Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
academically speaking, of course.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Uh, yeah, that's something there though, man. But yeah, I covered as much as I possibly could, man. Especially around this time, like I said, holiday weekend, y'all got Thanksgiving and all that type of stuff going on. So really ain't that much action when it comes to boxing, so to speak. So we're just talking about what this potential news that's been being chopped around. So I know we got a couple of fights that are coming up in the following weekend that we're trying to look forward to. So we'll get more into that probably on the Boxing Source podcast, as far as like the rematches that are part of that top rank card there that's slated for December 7th in Phoenix, Arizona. All right. I know that there's a fight in Birmingham, England that involves Sunday Edwards, of course, who fought Ben Rodriguez last year, going up against Galal Yafai. But you're going to have more action out here stateside starting on December 7th. And also, you'll have in Puerto Rico Liam Power versus Richard Hitchens. And you're going to have Jalil Hackett versus Jose Ramon Vasquez. Of course, Jalil Hackett here over in the DMV area has been, this is going to be a second fight under Matchroom Boxing. And we had like a recent interview with him. We'll see here if we could have one more conversation there with Jalil Hackett or whatnot before he heads over to Puerto Rico. So we'll see how we kind of like sort that out here as well. But that's what's kind of like on slate here, at least for the first weekend of December. And then we're gonna have a few other fight cards that's going to come up leading into December 21st for that rematch, Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury. For the I don't know why. I don't know why ESPN says Usyk's undisputed heavyweight championship. I guess that they're saying because of what Riyadh season put up, because they had that undisputed belt there that Riyadh season did. And we all know that Daniel Dubois is an IBF heavyweight champion, and Usyk has the other three belts. But I guess they're just trying to promote that Riyadh season belt or something. You know what I mean? I guess that's what it is. But that's what we got going down so far here in the month of December. So we're gonna try to catch up with all that. And like I mentioned before, see if we could get in contact with Otto Wallin, who is going to be facing Derek Chisora, in February here. They just recently made the announcement. Otto Wallin was over there in Manchester there for that. So we're going to work on getting Otto Wallin on here as well to see how that goes. That I'll see about having that on through YouTube. That probably be exclusive to YouTube. We'll see how that goes. But once again, big thanks for Brother Terrell being on here for the Midweek Report, and everyone that's been able to join in live. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Share this stream or share the channel. And we appreciate all the support here on the Boxing Source. We're trying to work on getting up to, what is it, about like 3,000 subscribers or so, whatever it is. And also with try to post up more articles there on the boxingsource.net. Yeah, I got to work on that here a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. But with that being said, that's it on my end. I will be catching y'all on Sunday. All right. Till then, peace out.
Ooh.